We're sitting on my farm, which this pond behind me was built, I think, in '72. And I was born in a trailer about a mile from here. And then in '74, we moved here on the farm. I was driving a tractor or driving a pickup truck when I could reach the pedals. So that's the way, you know, any kid is growing up on a farm. You know, when you think about my home life, you know, the one person I can't leave out is my brother. You know, I grew up with a twin brother, which was great because I didn't have a neighbor within a mile. So it always gave me somebody to play with. My mom says we were fighting before we came out. My brother and I, we grew up with basically each other. That's it. You know, we didn't have any friends that would come over. We're just too far away from everybody. And on the other side of this pond, there was a big oak tree that leaned over into the water. And so we went over there and decided we're going to put 2x4s, make a 2x4 ladder up the tree and go out and hook a rope onto it and swing the rope out there and have something nice to have some recreation with. And so we had a bunch of pre-cut 2x4s, and Mark's job was to go up and take 2 or 3 2x4s and go up to the top. The last one he nailed in, and then nail it in, nail the 2x4 in, go up another step, nail it in, and so just make a ladder out of the tree. And my job was at the bottom of the tree was to take a hammer and start the nails in the 2x4 so my brother didn't have to do that up on top. And so I'm sitting there at the bottom of the tree and I'm starting the nails in the 2x4 and all of a sudden, boom, I'm hitting the back of the head, and my brother had dropped his hammer on accident. So I've got this hammer that fell down 20 feet, hit me in the head. I'm pissed, you know, and I take that hammer and I see him up in that tree and I throw it at him, and of course the hammer didn't hit him, went out in the water, and never found it again. And I said, "Get down here," and he's no, you know, he wasn't going to come down. Now, you know, I'm yelling at him to come down, he doesn't. So he goes all the way out and crawls up the tree and goes over the branch. Now he's over the water, and I see that. So I've been throwing everything at him. I see that, I take the boat out there. So now I've got the boat we took over there right underneath him. So if he jumps out of that tree, he's going to land in the boat. And I felt sorry for him, so I moved the boat in the last minute. He hit the water, and I hit my oar at him a couple times, and I just took off and made him swim across the pond. That's it. That's a very, very typical story for my brother-in-law. My brother and I, we had a great time with each other, but we're lucky we've got both our limbs, both our eyes. It's just, we grew up rough, you know. We got pissed off. We were always throwing something at each other. It was an interesting lifestyle. My brother and I, when we got into it and it actually come to blows, usually who won was the guy that was more pissed off. You know, my brother and I are very equal in a lot of different ways, and you know, fighting was one of them. So by no means did I have an advantage at an early age. There's never been any thought of leaving home. You know, one good thing about being a fighter, I've traveled the world, and there's no place that I've found that I'd rather be than right here. So this is where I love to spend my time. If I'm not doing something for the UFC, I'm probably here on the farm. I'm a first-generation wrestler. My brother and I just were always rough around the farm here. So when we were in junior high, we started wrestling, but it was nothing major at all. It was just like a tournament once a year. And then when we hit high school, we went out for the wrestling team and found success pretty early. Went to state as a freshman, which not a lot of guys do, and my brother finished the year out well. So we both did real well all 4 years in high school. Well, my early lesson would be work ethic, for sure, and that you know, started here on the farm. You know, my dad always had us working. We always cut a lot of wood for heat in the winter, so we were always cutting wood and working, and you know, so that started early, and then that carried over into the wrestling room when we got old enough to wrestle and be competitive in that. So, you know, it's one of those things where I've always been in shape. I had quite a few coaches that were good. Assistant coach Booker Benford, really good. He was an Olympic caliber wrestler. Dave Clem, probably one of my favorite coach, and the guy I learned a lot of my coaching from, and who gave me a strong foundation in this up at Lincoln Junior College. So yeah, I've had some great coaches, and they've all, you know, been a piece to it. You know, I can't say that I'm here by myself. You put a jigsaw puzzle together, and that's what you've got with me. You know, you've got good coaches, good family, good friends that have all helped and put a little piece to add to me, and that's who I am. I mean, it's not me by myself. When I decided to go Division I went with a school that I could drive to, a small campus, and that I got along with the head coach real well. So the big decision was I was done wrestling. I was an electrician making $28.88 an hour. I was also the wrestling coach, assistant wrestling coach, and I decided to give that up, move to Iowa, live with with my manager for a little while, and try and fight full time. So it was a big decision. You know, do I want to take this hobby that I've been doing and try and make a go of it, or do I want to stay with what I love to do, which was working with my hands and coaching wrestling. So it was a big decision. It was a big decision in my life. I gave away all security and threw the dice and traveled to Iowa and made a go of it. And it wasn't long after I moved to Iowa I lost twice in a row, and I didn't like that, and really kind of decided, you know, if I lose again here in a year or so, I'm gonna give it up. And then I got a fight in the UFC, or I got a title fight in the UFC. And if I would have lost that fight, I would have gave the sport up, walked away from it, and probably came back to the farm here. But I ended up winning, and the rest is history. Main martial art, and by far the main, is wrestling. You know, wrestling to me is keeping control. You know, no matter what happens on the ground, I can control my opponent. And with the takedowns, I get to pick where the fight's going to be at. If I'm fighting a good boxer, I can use my wrestling offensively, put him on the mat. If I'm fighting a good jiu-jitsu guy, I can use my wrestling defensively and keep him standing and try and outbox him there. So me being the wrestler, I get to pick where the fight's going to be at, get to pick where the battle's going to be at. You know, that was an easy transition for me. When I went from wrestler to fighter, the jiu-jitsu just came very easy. I love doing it, and I have to say I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to the jiu-jitsu side. And then along with the jiu-jitsu, I incorporated Thai boxing and American.